How is this even possible? Tour de France mountains torn apart by a single rider. Solo breakaways so violent that entire pelotons shatter behind him. Rivals empty, unable to respond. Commentators screaming over crowds who can barely process what they're watching. Rain-soaked suffering. Heart rates pushed to the ragged edge of human tolerance. Camera motos struggling to keep pace. Tadej Pogacar isn't just winning races. He may already be rewriting cycling history forever. Are we witnessing the greatest cyclist of all time, in real time? To answer that, you have to measure him against every legend who came before. Comparing Tadej Pogacar to legends like Eddy Merckx means building a new scoreboard, one that cuts through decades of distortion to reveal what greatness really looks like. The foundation is simple: wins per season, podiums, stage victories. But these totals crumble under closer look. In the 1970s, Merckx raced up to 120 days a year, and Pogacar's seasons rarely cross 80. The modern peloton is deeper, faster, and more global, with every team armed with wind tunnel data and nutrition plans. So, statisticians turn to the win-to-race day ratio, a number that ignores hype and measures pure efficiency. Pogacar wins nearly 27% of the races he starts. Merckx, the cannibal, finished at 31.7%. But those numbers are only the beginning. The adjusted Grand Tour index digs deeper. Each win is weighted for era, race length, calendar density, and technology. A Tour de France victory in 2023 is not the same as one in 1972. Modern bikes are 10% lighter, aerodynamics up by 15%, and shifting is now electronic. These gains are offset, neutralizing mechanical advantages. Doping context is factored in. Merckx's era gets a 0.85 multiplier for less regulated conditions. Armstrong's gets a 0.7 multiplier, and Pogacar, racing under the biological passport, gets a 1.0 multiplier. By this formula, Merckx's adjusted Grand Tour win index stands at 9.4. Pogacar's, already at 5.6, is closing fast. Vingegaard and Evenepoel, the next closest, barely reach 1.6. But the numbers stretch further. The race day exposure ratio measures the strength of the field. Pogacar faces start lists with average UCI world ranking points double those of the 1970s. Each win is scored against the global density of the peloton, a heat map of competition that makes every triumph more valuable. Podium percentages, stage-type breakdowns, and the ratio of mountain-to-time trial victories are mapped and normalized. The result is a composite index that finally puts legends on the same field. Yet the numbers still hold mystery. How does a 26-year-old from Slovenia come so close to the cannibal? How can one rider conquer the Alps, dominate time trials, and win monuments under the world's gaze? The answer lives in physiology, in the pressure of modern cycling, and in the cold math that ignores nostalgia. This is the new scoreboard, one that might finally reveal if the GOAT is a myth, or if the numbers are rewriting history. The modern peloton is a crucible, forged by science, global talent, and relentless ambition. 200 riders line up, each backed by teams of analysts, nutritionists, and coaches, each with the singular goal of victory. In the 1970s, a contender might have sized up a handful of true rivals. Today, Tadej Pogacar faces a start list where the top 20 could all claim a Grand Tour, a monument, or an Olympic medal. The competition depth index, built from UCI world ranking points, lays bare the gulf. The average field strength is now double what Merckx confronted at his peak. There are no soft wheels to follow, no easy days, no weak links to exploit. Numbers tell the story. In 1972, the average Grand Tour start list carried under 4,000 UCI points. Now, it is over 8,000. Even the domestiques, once anonymous helpers, are former national champions, each with a decade of data-driven training and a personal support team. Pogacar's victories come not against a few legends, but against a field that is globalized, professionalized, and ruthlessly optimized. Every win is a fight against rivals and against the sport's own rising ceiling. The modern era brings more than deeper fields. The shadow of doping lingers, but the biological passport, introduced in 2008, changed the calculus. Every rider's blood values are tracked year-round, every anomaly flagged. No more wild swings in form, no more miracles in the final week. Pogacar rides under constant scrutiny, every watt measured, every test result public. His era is the most policed, the most transparent, and the most unforgiving cycling has ever known. Pressure is everywhere. Rivals know the numbers. Fans remember scandals. Journalists wait for cracks. In this environment, dominance is almost impossible. Yet, Pogacar wins nearly 27% of his races, conquering mountains, time trials, and monuments. While the world watches for the slightest slip, how does one rider bend this field to his will? It is not just legs or lungs. Modern cycling is a laboratory for the limits of human performance. Teams spend millions on wind tunnels, aerodynamics, and nutrition. Margins are measured in seconds, careers in seasons, reputations in whispers. Every advantage is fleeting, every mistake fatal. Pogacar is not simply winning, he is redefining what is possible in an era where shortcuts are gone and the bar is set by relentless science. The Peloton feels it. The numbers prove it. In this age of the biological passport and globalized talent, every victory is a statement. The hardest era in cycling history may be producing its greatest champion. In the shadow of the Kamnik Alps, a boy was born in September 1998 into a world that felt a million miles from the bright lights of the Tour de France. Tadej Pogacar's earliest memories are not of finish lines or podiums, but of long silent walks along the ridgelines, his parents urging him higher with every step. The Pogacar family lived simply, Mirko tending the family's small farm, and Marietta running the local shop, where every day began with chores and ended with stories of endurance, not victory. On Sundays, the routine never changed. Instead of church, the family climbed, up muddy trails, through thick pine, sometimes pushing an old steel bike that belonged to Tadej's older brother. At 9, he inherited that bike, a battered frame too big for his legs, gears that slipped on every steep pitch. But on those hills, the boy learned something the world's best coaches cannot teach: how to suffer and how to love it. There was no cycling dynasty in Kamnik, no Olympic medals on the walls, just the relentless expectation that you finished what you started. Mirko, who lost his own parents young, drilled it into his children: work first, play later, no shortcuts. Marietta, a former schoolteacher, demanded discipline. Homework came before riding, respect came before ambition. In this house, humility was not a lesson, it was the air they breathed. The hills around Kamnik are steep, the roads rough. Every climb was a test, every descent a lesson in risk. Tadej's legs grew strong, his lungs learned to stretch, his mind learned to endure. The mountains were not obstacles, they were home. The family's small country mentality shaped him. If you want to stand out, you have to outlast. Every Sunday, every muddy ridge, every stubborn pedal stroke built a foundation deeper than muscle. It built a rider who would not just survive the world's hardest races, but redefine them. Long before the numbers, before the headlines, before the world called him the greatest cyclist of all time, Tadej Pogacar was just a boy in the hills, learning that greatness begins with the simple act of climbing and never stopping. At 15, Tadej Pogacar crossed the finish line at the 2014 Slovenian Junior National Time Trial, gold medal flashing in the mountain light. The numbers stunned coaches. His power output set a new standard for the federation's sports scientists. In Kamnik, a quiet teenager was suddenly outpacing the country's best juniors by margins that made even the veterans pause. But behind the stopwatch, Samo Kostelic, former national champion and now coach at KK Kranj, saw more than numbers. He saw a mindset that could be shaped. Kostelic took charge, introducing interval sessions in the rain, hill repeats that left most riders doubled over. Pogacar never missed a rep. Training logs from 2014 and 2015 show a relentless pattern. High VO2 max, rising lactate thresholds, and a streak of wins that forced rival coaches to take notice. The European circuit brought new challenges. In 2015, Pogacar claimed the Trofeo Almar in Italy, then dominated the Tour de l'Anniversaire in France. At the UCI Junior World Championships road race, he attacked on the final climb with 3 kilometers left, holding a 6% power surge that shattered the field. Second place finished in disbelief. Journalists started calling him the new prodigy of the Alpine valleys. Scouts from World Tour development teams began to circle, some scribbling his name for the first time, others for the 10th. Inside the Slovenian Young Rider Academy, Pogacar became the test case for a new approach, measured, monitored, and pushed to the edge of what a teenager could endure. But it was Kostelic's influence that set him apart. Under his watch, Tadej learned to suffer with purpose, to break rivals with will as much as with strength. By the end of 2015, his name was the benchmark for every young Slovenian cyclist, and for coaches and scouts, the question was no longer if he would turn professional, but when. In July 2017, the Giro della Valle d'Aosta exploded into chaos on the slopes of Monte Pian della Musa. A young Slovenian in a plain kit, barely 19, surged away from the favourites. It wasn't a flash attack, it was a slow, merciless grind, the kind that breaks legs and hope. By the summit, Tadej Pogacar had taken the overall win. The cycling world took notice. Scouts texted each other in disbelief. The numbers on his power file didn't add up for a teenager. He wasn't just winning, he was erasing the gap between junior promise and professional reality. Behind the scenes, UAE Team Emirates performance director Jordi Era was already making calls. He flew to Kranj, sat across from Pogacar and his family, and saw something in the rider's eyes, an absence of fear, a hunger that no training plan could teach. Era's words to the team's owner were simple: "If we don't sign him now, someone else will, and we'll regret it for a decade." In February 2018, the contract was inked. Pogacar, not yet 20, officially joined the World Tour. That spring, he lined up at the Tour of Flanders, his first test against cycling's elite. He finished 39th on debut, not a headline, but in the team bus. The staff watched his recovery metrics, his composure, his refusal to shrink from the moment. The whispers started. This kid could win anywhere. The shock inside the peloton was real. Rivals scanned the start lists, saw his name, and recalculated their tactics. How does a rider leap from the U23 ranks to the world stage with no stutter, no fear, no learning curve? By the end of 2018, Pogacar was more than a prospect. He was the question every director sportif had to answer, the unknown variable that could break the old order. The era of Tadej Pogacar, the best cyclist ever, was about to begin, and nobody felt safe. Not anymore. In the 2022 Tour de France, on the slopes of the Col du Grand Coin, he doesn't just attack, he detonates the race. The move comes with 12 kilometers still to climb. The peloton already stretched thin. Pogacar stands on the pedals, surges clear, and never looks back. By the time he crests the summit, the gap is growing. 80 kilometers remain to the finish in Saint-Étienne, and every expert on earth expects him to fade. Instead, Pogacar rides alone, head down, carving through the wind, 4 minutes and 30 seconds ahead at the line. That kind of gap hasn't been seen in a decade. Riders cross the finish, looking shell-shocked. Some don't even bother to sprint for the minor places. The message is clear. This is a new order. Stage 8 of the 2023 Giro d'Italia, Monte Bondone. Rain lashes the mountain. The field is already battered. 30 kilometers from the summit, Pogacar launches again. There is no hesitation, no glance over the shoulder. Only the sound of gears shifting and rivals dropping. By the time he reaches the top, the clock shows 2 minutes and 45 seconds to the next rider. The margin isn't just physical, it is psychological. The peloton isn't chasing anymore. They are surviving. On the team radios, there is disbelief. On the mountain, there is silence. This is what it looks like when a single rider breaks the sport's collective will. But it's not just about the mountains. Stage 19 of the 2020 Tour, Alpe d'Huez to Côte de Lens. The move comes just before the summit. Pogacar accelerates, disappears into the mist, and crosses the line 3 minutes and 15 seconds ahead. His power output for the final climb hovers around 6.7 watts per kilogram, numbers that make even seasoned pros shake their heads. These aren't normal attacks. They are acts of destruction. Each time, the race is decided not by tactics, but by force, by the raw, almost frightening certainty of a rider who knows he can do what others can't. Journalists scramble for explanations. Coaches study the data, searching for weakness. Rivals whisper about the next time. But deep down they know, when Pogacar wants to win, he doesn't just ride away. He rewrites what's possible. The peloton is left in pieces. And somewhere in the silence, a new kind of fear takes hold. Because everyone watching knows they are witnessing something cycling has never seen before. The moment Tadej Pogacar attacks, something breaks in the group behind. It is not just the time gap. It is the way the peloton's rhythm unravels, as if a silent signal has passed through every rival's legs. Power meters tell the truth others try to hide. A sudden drop from 90 revolutions per minute down to 60, sometimes in less than 10 seconds. Riders who moments earlier looked calm now sway in the saddle, faces twisted, heads dropping. The cadence collapse isn't just a loss of speed, it is a surrender. On the road, bodies scatter. Some try to respond, but the effort is forced, mechanical, doomed from the first pedal stroke. Others do not even stand on the pedals. They know the attack is already gone. Radios crackle with disbelief. Team directors urge their riders to chase, to hold the wheel, to fight. But the group fractures. Gaps open and do not close. The peloton, once a single organism, splinters into desperate individuals. It is not just fatigue. It is the weight of inevitability. When Pogacar goes, the calculation changes. Rivals glance at their power numbers and see the impossible. His surge pushes past 6.7 watts per kilogram, a level most cannot touch, even on their best day. In that instant, hope drains away. The mind gives up before the legs do. Some drop their heads, others stare blankly at the road ahead, already calculating how much time they will lose, how far the podium has slipped from reach. This is not a normal race anymore, it is survival. For those left behind, every pedal stroke is heavier, every breath sharper. The peloton has witnessed something more than an attack. They have felt the psychological hammer of a rider who can break not just legs, but belief. And as the cadence slows, a new fear settles in. What if there is no way back from this? Jonas Vingegaard sits silent on the team bus, legs still twitching from the climb, eyes fixed on the replay. He has lost another minute to Tadej Pogacar on a mountain that was supposed to be untouchable. A Tour winner himself, Vingegaard is asked what it is like to face a rider who seems to bend the laws of cycling. He barely looks up. When he goes, it's like gravity changes. You see the gap open, and you know, no one is coming back. Remco Evenepoel, hunched over his handlebars and streaked with sweat, has won monuments and shattered time trials. But after another stage where Pogacar attacked early and never faded, Evenepoel's voice is flat. I have to respect how he can open a gap of over a minute on a mountain and still have the legs to sprint the finish. There is a pause, as if searching for logic in something that feels like magic. Even champions are left with questions. Mathieu van der Poel, the Dutch classics specialist, knows what it means to break rivals on the cobbles. But after Paris-Roubaix 2023, he is asked about the man who rode away from the group as if the stones were not even there. It was the most frightening ride I have ever witnessed. His power on the cobbles was unreal. Fear is rare in cycling. Respect is expected. Fear is something else entirely. Primož Roglič, once Pogacar's mentor and now his most battered rival, tries to explain. When Tadej attacked, the bike seemed to fly. I simply could not match his rhythm. For years, Roglič was the standard of Slovenian discipline. Now, he is the one left chasing. These are not just post-race cliches. They are admissions. The Peloton's best are learning to live with doubt. With Pogacar, the mask slips. Power meters show the moment hope vanishes. In the age of marginal gains, there is no formula for this. It is raw, personal, and it is changing what greatness means. It starts in a lab under fluorescent lights, where a sports scientist stares at Tadej Pogacar's data and wonders if the machine is broken. VO2 max above 90 milliliters per kilogram per minute. Territory reserved for Olympic gold medalists, not Tour de France rivals. On the road, that means Pogacar can push 6.7 watts per kilogram up a mountain, then do it again. And again. The power doesn't fade. 4 hours into a race, when most legs are flooded with lactic acid and the Peloton's strongest are dropping 10% off their peak, Pogacar's numbers stay flat. No decay, no mercy. A scientist from UAE team Emirates, face half-lit by a laptop, scrolls through a training file. 300 watts average over 4 hours, with bursts above 800 watts deep into the ride. The secret isn't just raw output, it's how his body eats lactate, turning what should be poison into rocket fuel. His blood tests show a lactate threshold at 94% of that monstrous VO2 max. Most riders redline and drown. Pogacar floats. Recovery? He's a paradox. After a 6-hour mountain stage, his heart rate variability, the tiny electrical signals that measure stress, remain steady. Muscle glycogen, the fuel of champions, stays above 80% after a week of racing. His mitochondria, the power plants inside every cell, are denser than the competition. Scientists call it metabolic flexibility. Rivals call it something else. Unstoppable. This isn't just talent, it's a human engine built for destruction. Every time Pogacar attacks, he's drawing from a physiological arsenal that rewrites what's possible. The Peloton knows the numbers. The scientists know the numbers. But nobody, not even the best in the world, knows how to stop them. Money does not win races, but in modern cycling, it changes what's possible. Inside the UAE team Emirates headquarters, budgets are measured in millions, a figure that would have stunned the old European squads. The team's finance officer, a former investment analyst, describes the operation like a Formula One paddock. Every marginal gain, every watt, every second, backed by a river of cash. Annual team budgets now hover around 35 million euros, with Pogacar's own salary estimated between 4 and 6 million euros per year. That's before bonuses, before prize money, before the endorsements that turn his name into a global brand. The numbers keep climbing. A single Grand Tour win can trigger a €500,000 bonus. Partner deals with luxury brands, Tag Heuer, Specialized, Bianchi, and a personal watch line with Rolex add another €1.5 million to the ledger. Cycling used to be a sport of small-town factories and local butchers. Now it is a showcase for sovereign wealth, global sponsors, and the kind of financial firepower that buys wind tunnel hours, nutritionists, and the best sports scientists on Earth. There is a reason Pogacar's bikes are custom-built, each one worth more than a family car, and why his team can afford altitude camps in the Sierra Nevada and full-time aero consultants. The money is not just a number, it is a weapon. When rivals line up, they know they are not just racing a man, they are racing a system, a machine fueled by resources that never run dry. In this new era, the edge is not only in the legs, it is in the balance sheet, the payroll, the silent deals that turn a Slovenian prodigy into the face of a global cycling empire. And behind every attack, every record, every moment of domination, there is a financial engine pushing the limits of what a cyclist and a team can achieve. Inside the wind tunnel, time slows. Engineers crowd around Tadej Pogacar's bike, eyes fixed on the digital readout. Every second, every gram, every angle. Nothing is left to chance. This is where cycling's silent war is fought, not on the road, but in the LAB, where air resistance is measured in decimals, and victory is shaved from the void. The numbers are ruthless. A 0.28 reduction in drag coefficient, CDA, does not sound like much. But on a 20-kilometer time trial, it is 30 seconds. 30 seconds that can erase a rival, break a record, or turn a legend into a memory. The team's engineering crew calls it the invisible edge. For Pogacar, it is the difference between being caught and being untouchable. Nothing about his gear is off the shelf. Bespoke carbon tubes, sculpted by hand and tested in the University of Altenrhein's wind tunnel, replace standard frames. Each tube is shaped to slice the air with surgical precision. The result is a bike that seems to float through headwinds, a rider who looks like he is cheating physics itself. Even the handlebars are custom-molded and designed to fit Pogacar's exact shoulder width, minimizing turbulence and maximizing control. The arms race does not stop at the frame. Every helmet, every skin suit, every wheel is optimized, measured, and remeasured. Engineers run simulations at 45 kilometers per hour, hunting for the smallest possible gain. Margins so thin, they are almost mythical, until the stopwatch proves otherwise. Pogacar's rivals know the numbers. They know that in the era of marginal gains, 30 seconds is not just a gap. It is a chasm, one that cannot be closed by training harder or suffering more. It can only be crossed with science, money, and a team that treats every race like a physics experiment. The Peloton feels it. The world sees it. And somewhere in the background, the engineers smile, knowing they have built more than a bike. They have built a weapon. The world calls someone the greatest cyclist of all time. The old wounds of cycling, EPO, blood bags, the names erased from the Tour de France, never truly heal. In the era of Tadej Pogacar, the doubt is quieter, but it never leaves the room. It waits, just behind the numbers, asking, can one rider really be this good? The sport remembers. The 1990s and the 2000s were an arms race of chemistry, not just legs and lungs. Legends fell. Trust shattered. Fans learned to question every superhuman performance. But cycling changed. The UCI biological passport, launched in 2008, tracks every rider's blood values year-round. No more wild swings, no more disappearing acts. Every anomaly flagged, every test result logged, shared, dissected. Pogacar's generation rides under the microscope. No hiding, no off-season miracles. The system is relentless, unforgiving, and it is designed to catch the cheats before they can even start. Still, the questions come. Can a clean rider really ride away from the peloton like that? Can anyone trust greatness after decades of betrayal? An anti-doping official, voice measured and tired, lays it out. We test more, we test smarter, and the passport makes it almost impossible to cheat for long. But suspicion is the price of our history. Every champion carries it. For every record Pogacar breaks, there is a cost. For every new era, an old ghost. In cycling, the past is never really past. It rides alongside every champion, asking the question nobody wants to answer. What if this time it is real? Blood dries fast on tarmac, but the scars of greatness linger. Tadej Pogacar, the best cyclist ever, or the cycling GOAT, whatever name you choose, knows the price behind the numbers. In the aftermath of the 2021 Tirreno-Adriatico crash, Pogacar sat hunched on the roadside, jersey torn, blood streaking his arm. Cameras zoomed in on the wound, but the real damage was invisible. That night, his heart rate variability plummeted, with readings dropping below 60, a warning sign for any elite athlete. The body was screaming for rest, but the calendar showed another race in 3 days. Inside the team bus, silence. UAE Team Emirates doctors checked for concussion, then asked the question every champion dreads: keep going or call it? Pogacar didn't answer. He taped up, climbed back on the bike, and finished the stage. But the cost wasn't just physical. Sleep vanished. The next week, training logs showed a spike in cortisol, a dip in muscle glycogen, and the kind of fatigue that doesn't leave with a hot shower. Fans see the yellow jersey, the Tour de France parades, the legend in the making. They don't see the nights spent staring at the ceiling, or the mornings when legs feel like stone. Every attack, every record, every moment Pogacar breaks the peloton comes with a silent debt. The best cyclist of all time? Maybe. But the cost of cycling domination is paid in pain, in sacrifice, in the moments when even the greatest wonders how much more he can give. The checklist for the greatest cyclist of all time is brutal. Grand Tour wins, monument victories, stage race dominance, versatility across mountains, time trials, and the chaos of the classics. Tadej Pogacar's scorecard glows in nearly every column, except one. Monuments. Eddy Merckx still towers with 11. Pogacar, for all his brilliance, sits at 2. The gap is stark. Legends are not crowned on numbers alone, but history never forgets the count. Yet, the modern game has changed. Pogacar's consistency across seasons, his 100% top 10 Grand Tour finish rate, his ability to win against the densest, fastest peloton the sport has ever seen, are feats that bend the old rules. He has conquered the Tour de France, the Giro, and the Classics, often leaving rivals broken long before the finish. But the GOAT debate hangs on a razor's edge. Does a new era demand a new definition of greatness, or does the shadow of Merckx still rule the sport? A historian's voice cuts through the noise. If Pogacar wins 3 more monuments, the debate is over. Until then, the question is alive. The checklist is incomplete. The verdict is still unwritten. Right now, the world of professional cycling is forced to adapt to one man's pace. Tadej Pogacar isn't just setting new records, he's rewriting what's possible in the Tour de France, the Classics, and every mountain he climbs. Rivals question their limits. Scientists chase his numbers. History holds its breath. The greatest cyclist of all time? We're not watching a legacy form. We're living inside it. Tell us, where do you think the story goes next?